fostering firm growth through social identification ties in the workplace. So, distinguished guests, members of the our governing council, faculty, colleagues, students, invited guests online from other countries, from Ghana, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this memorable academic gathering. Tonight, it marks another milestone in the journey of Salt University College, journey of nurturing leaders of integrity, grounded in scholarship, faith, and service to humanity. We are gathered to celebrate scholarship, excellence, and the unveiling of thought leadership from one of our own, Dr. Moses Ahomka Yeboah, who will be delivering his inaugural lecture on a topic that sits at the very heart of organizational growth and leadership transformation. The meaning of an inaugural lecture is not merely a ceremonial tradition. It's a rite of passage, an opportunity for a scholar to share the fruit of years of research, reflection, and experience with the academic community in social at large. So it allows us to see the world. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It allows us to see the world through the lens of disciplined inquiry, to understand how theory can shape practice and how ideas can transform institutions. At Salt University College, such moments affirm our belief that knowledge is a sacred trust, means not only to inform minds, but to reform systems and inspire nations. And the theme of our lecture today is the power of leaders' social skills, fostering from growth through social identification, ties in the workplace. It is timely. I can see it with all confidence. It is timely and relevant, particularly in Africa's emerging socioeconomic context. Leadership has long been discussed in terms of strategy, authority, and vision. Yet, as Dr. Yeboah will explore, social skills and empathy, communication, trust, and relationship building are the invisible currencies that determine how far leadership can actually go. Dr. Yeboah's lecture the title reminds us that firms grow not merely by systems and structures, but by people and the social ties that connect them. When employees identify with their leaders, when they feel seen, heard, and valued, productivity rises, loyalty strengthens, and collective purpose flourishes. I believe that at Salt University College, we are deeply committed to shaping leaders of character and competence. Our program in leadership, diplomacy, and organizational management emphasize not just what leaders do, but who they are in relation to others. Dr. Yeboah's lecture aligns perfectly with our institutional ethos, leadership with integrity of heart. It reflects our belief that effective leadership begins with understanding people, respecting diversity, and nurturing trust, the very foundations of nation building. Before we invite our distinguished lecturer, let me express profound appreciation to our governing board council, led by our brother Emeka, Barrister Emeka, and the Salt University, led by our president, Dr. Kojo Alabo, the faculty, staff, and students who make these intellectual gatherings possible. To Dr. Yeboah, we congratulate you for reaching this academic and professional milestone. Your scholarships add to the growing voice of Africa researchers shaping global leadership discourse. We are proud to count you among the torch bearers of Salt University College, where faith meets reason and leadership is both learned and lived. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare our minds and hearts to receive tonight's lecture, may we do so with openness and curiosity. May the insight shared tonight inspire us to lead better, connect deeper, and build workplaces and nations where every person matters. It is now my honor to invite Dr. Moses Ahomka Yeboah to deliver his inaugural lecture on the power of leaders' social skills, fostering firm growth through social identification ties in the workplace. Thank you, and God bless us all. Thank you.
So much, Dr. Alabo. Dr. Mrs. Fatima Alabo, thank you so much for those wonderful words. Your words have helped to situate us in what to expect tonight. And we thank you so much for availing yourself to welcome us tonight to this inaugural lecture. And before we let our speaker, our distinguished speaker, present to us, I would like to once again welcome everyone to this inaugural lecture. As you well know, this lecture is in place of our guest seminars, our Salt University Guest Seminar Series, which are held once a month on Tuesdays from 5 to 7 p.m. These lectures or these guest seminars are designed to stimulate healthy conversation among the SALT community. And as new faculty come on board and join the growing SALT family, we shall be exposed to the different topics in their various fields of expertise that would also give us new and unique perspectives on the subjects in the SALT curriculum. Let us go now and know a little bit about our speaker before he comes on. Dr. Moses Ahomka Yeboah is the one who is going to be talking to us about the power of leaders' social skills and how fostering firm growth through social identification ties in the workplace, how that works. Dr. Moses Ahomka Yeboah is the head of the Department of Management and Entrepreneurship at Salt University College and the immediate past head of the Department of Entrepreneurship and Agribusiness at Cape Coast Technical University, CCTU, Ghana. He holds a PhD in management from the University of Newcastle, Australia, where he also served as a sessional lecturer. He obtained an MBA in entrepreneurship and small enterprise development and a Bachelor of Management Studies, both from the University of Cape Coast, as well as a professional diploma in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, CIM, in the UK. His research interests focus on entrepreneurship, knowledge sharing, employee creativity, motivation, and small and medium enterprise development and growth. Dr. Yeboah has published extensively in these areas, including works on relational leadership, knowledge sharing behavior, and the application of Hertzberg's motivation hygiene theory in SMEs. Now, let me acknowledge the presence of some of our faculty members very, very quickly. And I see our president, Dr. Kojo Alabo, and of course, our vice president, Dr. Fatima Alabo. I see Ambassador Novishi and some of our students. Welcome and thank you for gracing this occasion with your presence. Thank you. And now, very quickly, let me do a little bit of housekeeping Just to remind you, Dr. Ahomka Yeboah will be speaking to us for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll have a Q&A session of 45 minutes, and then we end at 7 p.m. Please keep all your mics on mute whilst you do not have the floor. Listen carefully and jot down your questions that you would ask throughout the Q&A, or send them in the chat box. Raise your hand using the icon, and when it's your turn, you unmute and then mute again after your question. Without further ado, we welcome Dr. Moses Ahomka Yeboah. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Sika. Good evening to you all. And special greetings to Dr. Alabo, the president of the university, and then Mrs. Alabo, the vice president, and then key officers of the university. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I look forward to an evening of intellectual discourse where we get to learn about leadership and what it takes to leverage on leadership to have firm growth. So as my topic is the power of leaders' social skills, fostering firm growth through social identification ties in the workplace. All right, so as we can see from the picture, this shows a group of workers who are having some fun time. Another
Dr.
shows,
Moses,
yes.
excuse me, can your volume go up a little bit, just a tad bit?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it? Yes, all right, so yes. All right, so as I said, so the first picture shows a group of workers who are getting to know each other and having a good time. The second picture also shows a group of workers who have come together to take a photo. Now, this photo symbolizes unity and symbolizes togetherness. Now, so the question is, what will make employees come together to take a group photo? That suggests a sense of togetherness and a sense of group within the organization. And that's the fulcrum of my presentation. So my keywords are leaders. Now, in the context of SMEs, leaders could be entrepreneurs or owner managers, because most entrepreneurs double as the managers of their firm. So it's quite married couple as entrepreneurs and managers. And then the next keyword is intra-firm social network. That's informal relationships that exist within the organization. The technical term is intra-firm social networks. The next is social skills, talks about relational competence and how to get along with people. Now, firm growth basically talks about the expansion of the firm within the context of employee size, market size, and sales size. And then SMEs are small and medium enterprises, and that's the focus. So these are my keywords. Now, studies by Bodika and et al. And the rest shows that informal relationships in the organization has impact or have impact on employee responses to the work environment. Now, informal relationships are relationships that are not organizationally determined. So, for instance, Dr. Alabo is the president of the Salt University. I'm the HOD. So it means that our relationship is formal, is organizationally determined. However, relationships go beyond the organizational determined ones to informal ones. And research shows that the informal ones can create significant heterogeneous groups. It means that it can create groups alongside the formal groups in the organization. And entrepreneurs can leverage on that to the firm's advantage, because studies show that employees respond to informal groups. But studies have really been rare on how entrepreneurs can leverage on social networks with employees for firm growth. Most studies have focused on entrepreneurs' external networks with key stakeholders like customers, suppliers, public officials, and other external stakeholders. But how entrepreneurs can leverage on their informal ties with employees had hardly been studied. And that's the focus of my study. And also the contingency implications, because I'm assuming that the relationship could be hinged on other intervening variables. So one, studies have eluded the study of how internal networks affect firm group, and then the intervening or contingency implications. So my objective basically are three. One is to, how do entrepreneurs form social identification ties in the workplace. Now talk about social identification ties. We are looking at social-cultural factors like gender, age, religious ties, family ties, and all those social cultural factors that people share in common. That can be the basis for forming groups within the organization. So I want to find out how entrepreneurs, beyond the organizationally determined relationship, how can they also leverage on their social ties with employees to influence firm growth? The next is to look at how the social adaptation ties culminate into a network that could affect firm growth. And then how entrepreneurs can use their social skills to further enhance this relationship. So the objectives are three I seek to do. Now, theory. I'm using two theories to achieve these three objectives. One is the social network theory. This theory basically says that people form groups and they have basis for forming groups. So they form groups either to increase their self-esteem or to enjoy some privileges that come with belonging to the group. And then I'm looking at the social identity theory. This also says that when people share common social identification factors like gender, like education, like family, like ethnicity, like religion, it brings them together. And so I'm looking at these two theories to see how entrepreneurs can leverage on their social identification ties with employees to influence firm growth. Now, my literature review and then my hypothesis. The first is intrasocial networks and firm growth. As I indicated in my intro, studies show that social cultural differences among employees can create complex informal relationships in the organization. So it depends on which of our social cultural factor that will be dominant. So for instance, I can share social identity ties with people based on age, based on education, based on religion, based on ethnicity, based on family. However, it depends on my determination of which of these social identification factors that are dominant. So for others, some could be age, others could be ethnicity, others could be religion. And our studies show that it creates homophily. Homophily is where there's in-grouping within the organization. And so beyond the organizationally determined interactions, employees could now also interact alongside the organizationally determined structure based on homophilous ties or common social cultural ties, as I indicated. And now these interactions, if it goes on for a longer period, it turns into a network. A network is where a group of people see themselves as belonging to a group, and then there are group norms and principles that bind them together. So once employees engage in informal interactions for a longer period of time, it culminates into a network where they have group norms, group principles that bind them. So how will an entrepreneur be able to do that? Now, studies also show that there are several informal relationships in the organization that could influence the organization. But studies also show that the nature of their influence, the extent of their influence is determined by their network structure. In other words, the composition of the network or the individuals within the network. So there could be several networks within the organization that have no influence. And there are others that could have far-reaching influence on organizational or firm level outcomes. And studies shows that it's the nature of their network that determines. Network basically is the composition of people in the network, their size, and how influential are the people within the organization. They constitute the network. Now, there are several network measures, but I use three network measures based on the literature that could influence firm outcomes. I use network centralization, network density, and network reciprocity. Now, network centralization talks about how the overall integration of the network within the organization. So if three people come together to form a network, it tells to what extent are these three people within the network influential. And the network density talks about the connections between the people within the network. So you could have a network that even within the network, there's another network where people are closer to each other than they are with other people within the network. It talks about the density. And the reciprocity talks about the exchange relationship that if I help you, will you help me in return? The obligation to return favors received within the network. So these are the three principal network measures based on literature and extant studies that says that can influence how informal relationships can influence firm growth. Now, to my hypothesis development, I'm saying that network centralization can influence firm growth positively. Now, studies show that if network is conceptualized as being in the thick of things, as I said, network talks about how positioned the people are within the network. So if the people are close to each other, it means that information spreads faster within the network than networks that are not centralized. And once network has high centrality or centralization, what it means is that information flows faster because the network is centralized. People are easily connected to each other. So this is a typical example. So from this is a network of 5 people. You can see that the middle person is the central person. So it means that person A, B, C, and D will always want to relay information to the middle person. So what it means is that anyone who needs information can easily go to the middle person for the information. It means that this is a centralized network. Another is this: high centralization and low centralization. From the high centralization, you can tell that one person is at the heart of the interaction. So for instance, in an entrepreneur's network, if the entrepreneur is at the middle, what it means is that the entrepreneur can control all the other network members. So once person A needs information, the person goes to entrepreneur. Once the entrepreneur, because they see the entrepreneur as a focal person who can influence interactions. The second is low centralization. These are several connections. So it means that you may have a person up there who is not even connected to the person at the bottom. So before information is relayed to the person at the bottom, it takes a longer period. And research shows that when information passes through several layers, it gets filtered, and the quality of information is diluted. And so high centralization helps because then, as I said earlier, as the confluence of information. The next hypothesis, I'm saying that density of entrepreneurs intra-social network positively influences firm. Density talks about how close each person is within the network. And studies show that if networks have high density, it means that they are very close to each other and then they form formidable drive. A typical example is this. So this is a typical network. You can see that there's a lot of connection within the network and each person is connected to the other, directly or indirectly. And then there's another picture where low density, you can see that the connection in the low density is not as much as the moderate and then the high density. And then reciprocity talks about the exchange of information and resources between people within the network. It symbolizes trust. It shows that members care for each other and information can be relayed quickly. This is a typical example. So it's like the Ghanaian balance or the African balance. You do me, I do you. So A gives to B, and then A knows that he gets a return from A. So this is a typical network. So you can see that from the first diagram up there, the connection between the two diagrams is person D and person F. It means that there are more E, C, A, B, C, and D have high reciprocity than the connection with F, J, H, I. So the bridge between these two groups of people is D and F. And so these are the 3 principal networks. And I'm saying that the effect of these 3 network structures, centralization, density, and reciprocity, the extent to which an entrepreneur can leverage to influence employees towards firm growth depends on their social skills. Social skills basically talks about relational competence, social adaptability, and expressiveness, how entrepreneurs can get along with people. Remember, I said that intra-firm social networks are informal connections. So it means that the entrepreneur must come down, bypass organizational structures, get down to the bottom, and get along with the employees, influence them. Because study shows that informal connections even influence employees more than the formal system. So it means that for entrepreneurs to come down and influence employees to buy into the growth agenda, they must have high social skills. They must adapt, means that they must get down from their high horse, get along with employees so they can get information from them. We're told during Lawrence era, where you could leave the barracks drive to local places to pick information about the security of the country. That's social adaptability and expressiveness, being confident and being articulate with what you intend to do through leveraging on social skills. So these are the additional hypotheses. I'm saying that an entrepreneur who has high social skills will influence firm growth and to increase the strength of the effect of network centralization on firm growth, the effect of network density on firm growth, and then the effect of network reciprocity on firm growth. So this is my research method. I focus the study on SMEs. SMEs by the UNAIDO definition is businesses that have 5 to 19 employees as small, and then 20 to 99 as medium. Now, studies show. All right, so studies show that SMEs are the backbone of every economy because then they absorb the excess labor, they supply raw materials to large firms, they distribute finished products to the market, and so they serve as a bridge between the locals and then the big multinational companies. So SMEs in every economy represent the economic engine of the country. And therefore, most studies have focused on SMEs. And SMEs tie in directly with entrepreneurship, helping people to start businesses and making the businesses grow exponentially. Then I looked at SMEs across industry, those in wholesale, retail, manufacturing, and service sectors. I collected data from the Ghana Register of Companies, and the study was conducted in Greater Accra because studies showed that Greater Accra has a high concentration of growth-oriented SMEs. Now, studies show that SMEs that are older than 5 years have a higher propensity of growth, and they've bypassed the survival age. So I looked at SMEs within the list that were 5 years and above, and they were selected for the study randomly. And I had 264 entrepreneurs agreed to take part in the study, which is quite a sizable number that is accepted in the research fraternity. And then their employees were 3,432. So it means that I used 264 entrepreneurs with their cumulative employee size of 3,432. Now, the questionnaires were in two forms, one to the entrepreneur and then one to the employees. And so I distributed 264 and then 3,432. In network studies, we normally go for 100% response rate because we want to look at the interactions between a group of people. So even if there's no one, if one person declines, it affects, and that person may be the influential person within the organization. And so for network studies, the rule of thumb is 100%. And fortunately, I got 100%. All the entrepreneurs and their respective employees agreed to take part in the study. Now, how did I measure my variable? So for the intra-firm social networks, entrepreneurs provided names of employees that they interact with, and employees also did the same. And then I asked they should indicate the social identification basis for the interaction, which was family ties, gender, ethnicity, and religion. So these are the four sociocultural factors I look on that should underpin social identification types. And these are supported from the literature. And then, so what I did was that I mapped their interaction. So if a person nominates another person, and then the person also nominates that same person, that's a mutual interaction. It's coded as one. But if one person nominates A, but A does not nominate the person, it's O. And so there's a software that does that. So I did this in a relational matrix and loaded it into Excel sheet, and then fed the Excel sheet into a software called UCNet. It's a social network software that is used to generate interactions within networks. Then social skills, I adapted the study from Macron. And firm growth, I used 3 indicators: employee growth, sales growth, and market growth. And then, of course, I needed to control the age, gender, education, firm size, business type, employee size, and then the network size. Because study shows that this demographics and business information could influence the interaction. Then I did my basic preliminary checks, and all the indices were correct. And so there weren't any issues. Now, how did I analyze the data? I used the SPSS for descriptive statistics. I used the UCNet for the social network analysis. I used the Smart PLS WAP version for the testing of the hypothesis. I did my skill validity reliability test, and they all met, they were within the threshold, and therefore they were good to be used for the study. Now, my results. How do entrepreneurs form social ties in the workplace? So, family ties. So, 37.4% indicated that they engage in informal communications with employees based on the shared family ties. And then the next was ethnicity, 33.8%, religion, 21.6%, and then gender, 7.2%. So it means that for this set of SMEs, they tend to engage more with people based on shared family ties. And it trickles down to ethnicity, religion, and then it goes down to gender. Then results two. How do entrepreneur social networks influence firm growth? So I did the analysis, and then this was the results from the diagram. Now, as you can see, I've just abbreviated them. The SS is the social skills. The C, the CEN is the network centralization. The DEN is density, and then the REC is the reciprocity, and then of course FJ is the firm growth. Now let's look at the first one. The first hypothesis said that these three network structures influence firm growth, but from the results you can see that centralization is minus 0.07. That's the beta, which wasn't accepted. Density was minus 0.021, which was also not accepted. And then this was rather the p-value, sorry, the p-values. And the reciprocity at 10% is 0.098, which was accepted. So it means that for the three hypotheses, employees' reciprocity affected firm growth. So the nature of the exchange relationship. So if A gives to B and B returns to C, the studies show that it influences firm growth. And then I introduced the moderating variable, which is the social skills. Now, entrepreneur social skills has a direct effect on firm growth. So if entrepreneurs choose not to use the network and then just be affable, expressive, get down from their high horse and get along with employees, that alone can also influence firm growth. So it means that relational competence is very important in interpersonal skills within the organization. Then how does the social skills intervene, moderate network centralized network centralization? It shows significance. This is rather, sorry, I made a mistake, but it's 0.005. So it's significant. Please pardon me for the mistake. These are I use the beta values rather than the p values. So please, sorry. So it shows that so I use the p values for the direct relationships, and then I use the p-values for the moderating relationship. So you can tell that, as I said earlier, social skills, entrepreneurial social skills influences firm growth, and the social skills also moderates the effect of network centralization on firm growth. So what it means is that when entrepreneurs initially, network centralization had no effect on firm growth. But once entrepreneurs add their social skills to it, they're able to influence the centralization of their network on firm growth. As I said earlier, please, the values are the beta values. So 0.115 is high, accepted. The next is density. Density wasn't, their entrepreneurial social skills did not moderate their network density, because we can tell that 0.01 is low in terms of the beta value. So it means the entrepreneurs can never leverage their social skills to influence the density of their network to influence firm growth. Then the next is the network reciprocity, which is 0.009. The p-value indicates that it's high. So it means that for the intervening effect of social skills, it influences network centralization and network reciprocity. So at the end of a summary of the hypothesis is that entrepreneurs' network centralization and density do not influence firm growth. However, the reciprocity of their network influences firm growth. The introduction of social skills as a moderating variable influences the effect of both network centralization and network reciprocity on firm growth. It means that density has no direct effect, neither has it effect when social skills is introduced. Now, what are the implications for my study? One, past studies have mostly focused on entrepreneurs' external network. So this study is novel in looking at how entrepreneurs can leverage their ties with employees to influence firm growth. So this is quite a departure from the previous studies. And then I also looked at the two perspectives of social network theory. The behavioral is the networking, and the skills is the relational bit. Most studies just think that it's good to know people, but recent study shows that you need a skill to get the best out of knowing people, and that is the social skills. So this adds the behavioral and the skill perspective to network theory. And then through that, I introduced the boundary condition. It means entrepreneurs should not just focus on knowing people, they must develop social skills in order to increase the effect of network centralization and network reciprocity on firm growth. So why is density not significant in terms of its direct relationship and then the introduction of social skills? Now, study shows that when people are in a very close knit relationship, it causes what we call groupthink. Because they are closely related, they don't expose themselves to information outside of their group. So the practical implication is that entrepreneurs should regulate the connections of their internal networks to ensure that they don't become overly dense. If they become overly dense, they become too close knitted, and then they avoid interacting with people outside of their social network within the organization. And then it leads to redundant information and stale information. So entrepreneurs must be more approachable, learn their skill, moderate and reduce dense connections. And then considering how communal the Ghanaian is, as much as possible, we should tone down on social groupings within the organization. We can leverage on it, but we should make sure it doesn't get to the dense threshold. If it becomes dense, then it creates problems, where it creates deep factionalism within the organization. So that's the end of my presentation. So thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Moses Ahomka. But thank you. That was very, very interesting, but also I found it, I found myself wanting to ask you, first of all, before I open the floor to others, to ask you to give us a very real life example of how this can play out. What you have, this phenomenon that you have described
Yes.
of that, how the social networks and the ties, our social ties, can be leveraged to impact growth in the firm.
Yeah. So So can I talk?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So if you go to a place for the first time and you're all new, you start to look for common things that you share together, right? So for instance, if you should go to you are in Senegal, or if I got you right.
I'm in Angola.
Yes, you're in Angola. So it means as soon as you meet a Ghanaian, that person becomes a friend.
Yes.
Yeah, so it means that you share a national identity. You may meet that person in Ghana and then just bypass the person because as I said in my communication, I said that it depends on the weight you place on your social identification factor. Others is religion, others is gender, others is ethnicity, others is religion. And so study shows that once people meet for the first time, that is why organizations are mandated to do orientation for their new recruits. If you don't, the social identification ties will begin to group them, and they may influence the outcome of the organization. That is why you do quick orientation and then you imbibe in them the culture of the organization. If not, they'll begin to interact and see where they share common ties.
Okay. All right.
Please, please, have I tried to answer your
Yes.
question?
Yes, you've shed real light upon how those ties can lead to positive outcomes for a firm, for any kind of organization where people are coming together to do work. And so since nobody else is asking any questions just yet, I want to also ask you, Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, what do you say about, in light of your topic, what do you say about, doesn't this feed into cronyism in the firm? Doesn't it feed into nepotism and discrimination on the one hand? And also, what would you say about DEI efforts? That would be diversity, equity, and inclusion, because obviously, I guess some people may be tied together in one of these areas that you mentioned, whether it's religion, whether it's ethnicity, and so on. But what do you say about this other negative side that could be a negative outcome if, let's say, in the firm?
Yeah, so in entrepreneurship, what we say is that there's no such thing as a bad situation. It
As a
depends
what?
on, there's no such thing as a bad situation.
Okay.
So it depends on the interpretation you give to it and how you turn the seemingly bad situation into a good one. So from the results, as I indicated, that when the groupings within the organization becomes overly dense, then that is where it feeds into chronism, sycophancy, in-group thinking, and factionalism. The technical word is homophilous behaviors, where I don't share any common ties with you, therefore I don't want to work with you. In typical organizational settings in Ghana, people are sent to work under people and they turn it down because they simply feel that there is no shared social identity and therefore I can't work with you. So my research is saying that as much as the social groupings are good, make sure they don't become overly dense, overly too close. In other words, bridge the gap and get in the technical word is bridging ties. So it means that even if you have a group within the organization, still make sure you have links links to other people who are not part of your social identification ties, so that you can get what we call non-redundant information from them. Chronism, sycophancy, in-group thinking is common. It's everywhere. Even Angola is common there. But you can make the best out of it by using the social skills I introduced.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ahomka. Does anybody have any questions on this very interesting topic?
Yes, thank you, Sika.
Thank you,
I just want to find out about this explanation about the moderating factors and then the mediating factors. I didn't get that portion very clear. I think if you can, yes, in this diagram, if you can actually help me to understand the moderating and then the mediating factors. Thank you.
All right, good. So as I did in my lecture, I said I'm looking at 3 network structures: network centralization, density, and reciprocity, because study shows that for a network to have influence on individual and then firm outcomes, they must be centralized, they must be dense, and they must have what we call the reciprocity. But studies have been mixed. For instance, density study shows that if networks are overly dense, if it goes beyond a certain threshold, it becomes, so it's like a U-curve relationship. If it goes beyond a certain threshold, it begins to be negative. And our study clearly showed that the networks were overly dense and therefore did not have effect on firm growth. So the social skill says that it's not just about knowing people, but how do you get the best out of them? In other words, entrepreneurs must go beyond the formal relationships and then drop down and engage. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And that's what our politicians are doing now. You see them, they'll put the camera on them, they go to rural areas, sit and eat with them, they get power, they don't go there again because they are leveraging on social skills, because they want to make the people feel identified with them. So for instance, a boss can, instead of always calling employees to come to the office, a boss can leave his office or her office and walk to a junior staff, to have an interaction with the person, particularly if it's an informal interaction. Then they are leveraging social skills. So that is knowing people is the behavioral aspect, but getting the best out of people is the skills. And this our politicians have mastered that. That once the camera is on them, they are all nice, bubbly, getting along off the camera. They go to factory setting and they are not nice. Please, have I tried to answer your question?
No, but my question is really on this excess. I believe is social skills.
Yes.
Influencing on the FG, which is the firm growth, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm asking how this as a mediating or moderating factor affecting the growth, the firm growth.
Yes, this is just a statistical principle that says that for you to introduce any moderating variable, it should have an effect on the dependent variable. So there's no way social skills can affect any of the explanatory variables without its effect on the dependent variable. It's a regression principle that for you to affect the independent and the dependent, you must first affect the dependent. So, and this is practical. Anyone who is sociable, nice, gets along with people, don't always be on their high horse, tend to get people to do their bidding. So social skills will tell you the extent to which you can go, because if you are not careful, you may overdo it and then become a bother to people. So social skills put a cap on you, the extent to which you can get along with people that can be perceived as genuine and not fake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Philip, for your question. I'm sorry I fell off, so I had to come back to my phone. Does anybody else have another question for our speaker?
Can I ask a question, please?
Please go ahead. Please identify yourself. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Fatima Labo. I just want to ask Dr. Yeboah, what are the challenges that leaders face when trying to balance social connections with maintaining authority and discipline, authority or discipline, in fact, in the workplace? So when you become very friendly, some people take you for granted and start doing all kinds of things. So what are the challenges and how do we make a balance?
All right, that's why. All right, good. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Alabu, for the question. That is why every organization has what we call the regulations of the organization, the rules, the do's and don'ts. Now, in our Ghanaian setting or in African setting, if you are overly free, people may take your freeness for granted and may begin to usurp your authority. So the organization has rules. So as an entrepreneur, as a leader, make sure you don't bend any of the rules in the name of social informal networks. So don't have different strokes for different people. That is why the studies even indicated that if networks are overly dense, one implication is that you begin to bend the rules for your in-group members and then straighten the rules for those who are outside of your network. So make sure you are firm and you don't bend the rules. So for instance, if an employee comes late, what does the regulations of the company say? That if you come late, what are the sanctions? Apply them. Don't say because you belong to my social network, you are escaped. Someone who doesn't belong, he gets punished. No, it means that you are practicing favoritism and nepotism in the organization.
Thank you.
So you need to be firm, don't bend the rules, and be straight with your employees. And once you do that, your employees will know that you are firm. And they will know their boundaries.
Another point that I want you to elaborate, practical one, is that how an organization, institution intentionally cultivate that environment that strengthen social identification ties among employees. Like we put this intentionally put up.
No, yes. Yeah, so with the social identification ties, it's more or less an innate thing. It's more or less, as I asked Sika, she's in Angola. So once she meets a Ghanaian, automatically the Ghanaian becomes a friend.
Yeah.
She could meet the person at the airport and ignore the person. In Ghana airport, they sit on the same flight, they get to Angola and they become friends in Angola. Shika, you may have this experience.
Yes.
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 So people, we are not too intentional when it comes to social identification ties. It's an innate thing that needs to be managed. It's human relational need that needs to be managed. That is why the entrepreneurial social skills comes in to turn network centralization that hitherto had no effect on firm growth to have effect on firm growth. So it means that if you don't have high social skills, whether you like it or not, people will gravitate towards each other based on shared social ties. And it depends on the social ties that is dominant to them.
Right.
Mrs. Alabo, please, did you get my
Thank you very much. I'm very happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fatima Alabo. Thank you for that question. If nobody else has a question, I have one that is percolating on my mind. Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, back in the 80s and 90s, there was something they used to call 6 degrees of separation, which meant that if you are able to touch on 6 people or something, you'll be able to reach that person that you're trying to reach. Somehow the network, you will be able to get to whoever you want to reach when you touch on these 6 people. Now, today, in today's world where social media is very prevalent, now we have AI and we have all this technology that is, underpinning almost everything we do. What would you say about the role of today's technology in this, your research that you have done about social identification ties and how they can drive growth in a firm?
Oh, yeah. So with the advent of technology, it's kind of reduced the in-person interaction. So Shika, for instance, somebody sends you a friend request. The first thing is the name. And then you move on to the surname to get a clue about who that person is. So technology is bringing people too close, but not personally. So for instance, you're in Angola, I'm in Cape Coast, Mrs. Alabo, Dr. Alabo are in Accra, but we are connected.
Yes.
That's technology. You may even have friends that you've not met, and you can still get things going on. So technology is bringing people together, not in terms of personal meetings, but in terms of sharing ideas.
So in a company that is in these 3 places that you mentioned,
yes,
right? How does how does it work out in terms of your topic?
Yes, it does, because then people want to see, people are moved by value. So once you get to organization and you are virtually connected, and then maybe at one online meeting, one person begins to exude confidence, intelligence, in-depth knowledge. That person begins to attract people. And then that person becomes influential. So you don't necessarily need to meet people in person for them to be influential. The value they dispense attracts people to them. Please, for instance, the diagram I showed, you can tell that to bridge these 2 networks is D and F. So it means that if B wants to get any information from the other network, the person must talk to D. So it means that D and F are influential people. In other words, they are value driven. They dispense value in their respective network. That's why they're able to bridge the 2 networks. Shika, please, are you getting my explanation?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so network is not beyond the... Shika, there are people you've met, you thought they could bring value to you. You realize that, no, you're not getting any value. You left. So network, as I said, is value driven.
Right.
Yes, value driven. So we're beyond the social. So that's why I said in my that people
You sent it to
Yeah.
me. Okay. All right.
People form based on the social network. Okay, please, can you hear me?
Tomorrow.
If you're not speaking, can you just mute your mics, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so the social network theory says that people tend to engage in social categorization as a means of increasing their self-worth or self-esteem. So once they belong to that social category, like politics, people help parties come to power, they don't get any appointment, they get grieved and they become bitter. It means that the social network has not served their purpose, their selfish purpose. So people may come together based on shared social identifications. Along the line, if that is not serving their purpose of self-esteem, getting some privileged benefits, they tend to withdraw. So it's not automatic that once you belong to a social group, you stay there forever. You must dispense value and you must also receive value. And that's the essence of the entrepreneurial social skills. To let people know that I have a network with you that will help in your growth within the organization. Whether we like it or not, there are factions, informal factions within the organization, even in the family. If you are not careful, you may have a favorite child among your children. You must be smart enough not to show it. And sometimes your children can sense that dad and mom has a special soft spot for child A. So you must make that conscious effort not to show it openly to the displeasure of your other children. So people join social groups based on their own selfish interest, but they'll hide it. They will not tell you. Once they begin to withdraw, it means that their selfish interest hasn't been met. Yes. Shika, you are with Salt University because you want to get a PhD, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So if the journey is frustrating, you may think otherwise. But if the journey is smooth sailing, roller coaster ride, you'll love it and maybe introduce people to join us, which I think that's the case for you.
Of course. Of course.
Yes.
Of course. That is good. That is interesting.
Is
Now,
Dr. Labo online?
yes, I believe he is.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Now, let me take the opportunity to acknowledge also the presence of our registrar, Dr. Denise Anatri, and also of Dr. Mercy Deborah Karikari, who is also part of our faculty and our trustee group member at Salt University College, as well as Dr. Ambassador Novishi Abedu. Also, welcome and thank you so much for your presence. Now, if anybody else has any question, please raise your hand and go ahead.
So greetings to them all too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Madam Registrar, good evening.
Yes.
Dr. Labo is on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Okay. Any other questions for our speaker? Now, Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, that was a pretty large population size that you had, as well as the fact that you had 100% response in terms of your research. Some of us are right now going through that process. Do you have any advice for us in that regard for getting the same kind of 100% response from our population side?
Yes, it boils down to your social skills.
So what are
this is on a lighter side. I was able to get that because I used 264, and then this 3462 employees were distributed over the 264 entrepreneurs. So I had to meet the entrepreneurs. So I visited entrepreneurs and they had briefed them about the research, talked about their confidentiality, the anonymity of their responses that they'll give, and then brought their support into it. So more or less, I went there like twice, one to introduce the research to them, and then seek their consent, and then booked appropriate, suitable times with them that I could come. And so I left the questionnaires with entrepreneurs, and then they gave it over to their employees to fill. And then periodically I stopped by and then took the completed questionnaire.
Okay.
Then this part of my PhD work, and it's a published paper. I published it in a Journal of Leadership and Development journal. It's a good journal, one of the top journals in leadership. Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I see more students are joining now. If anyone has a question, please, this is the time to go ahead and ask your question. Like I said, some of us are in our, right now writing our dissertation, doing our research, trying to gather ourselves and organize ourselves. And Dr. Ahomka Yeboah has done a brilliant work with this topic that we are talking about today, which is the power of leaders' social skills, how to foster firm growth through social identification ties in the workplace. And I see somebody in the chat. Okay. Oh, Dr. Moses, here is a message from our registrar. She says, good evening to you all. Thank you for this topic, Dr. Moses. Unfortunately, I have poor network right now.
Oh, okay. All right. The challenges we have as a developing economy.
Yeah. Yes. But I see she's on. She's listening. Thank you so much.
Shika, based on the
Yes.
question you asked about the research, how do you get data? Now,
Yes.
it depends on your study population. So
Okay.
if they're a bit educated people, they have a fair appreciation of research. But in the event that they are not so educated, then they have a lot of doubts. So for instance, for SMEs, it's very difficult to get exact objective data on their firm performance growth. So normally we use subjective performance scale. So for instance, I ask them to rate their firm growth over a 3-year period.
Okay.
Because then if I should tell them, give me your documents to verify that indeed you've grown, they will not do it because they think I may even relay that information to the Internal Revenue Authority to come for taxes.
Okay.
So doing research involving SMEs is quite problematic because we don't trust each other. So the social skills could come in, you ensure them that the data they've used, the data you collect from them will be used for the sole purpose of the research. And then they'll be willing to support. Because I quite remember when I was doing my master's, I still did with SMEs, but there were friends that I used to go and buy things from them, from their shops. I went there with my questionnaire and I was turned down. Because they thought I could use the information to know how much money they are making or how rich they've become. And so they declined. So you
Dr.
may...
Dr. Ahomka, how did you link the impact of this social skills to the growth factor?
No, so as I under my method section, I said I adapted the skill for the social skills. There's a validated skill by Mark and Baron. Yeah, it's quite a number. So I selected 5 out of the numerous items, and then I did a pilot study to test the validity and then the reliability of the skill. They met the threshold, and therefore I used it. So normally, if you're adapting a skill from a validated skill, you must do a pilot study first to ensure that it's validated before you can use it in your study.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for instance, if the validated skill for, let's say, social skill, I think was about let's say 35. And I couldn't have used all the 35. I used 5 out of the 35 that suited my study objective. I
Okay.
needed to do a pilot study to validate it first before so that I could expunge those items that did not meet the threshold.
Okay.
Yeah, so it adds credibility and it adds replication to your study. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Sita,
Yes.
can I ask another question?
Yes, please go ahead,
Yeah,
Philip.
Doctor, I want to find out, looking at your topic, what actually informed you to use quantitative approach instead of qualitative?
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yes, I was asked by one of the reviewers. Now, social network status is purely quantitative. And then you may use it's purely quantitative research because then I use the network measures, the UCNet to generate the network measures. And then I use that. So I could have done a mixed study where I looked at how the qualitative could explain the result. However, because I use the social network studies, which is purely quantitative, I felt I could just do a direct, use the smart PLS to look at the direct relationships. So it could be a limitation where future research could look at the typical in-depth explanations behind the results. Why people, for instance, tend to use more of family ties, which is why I think it's understandable that if I share blood with you, I trust you that you will not do me harm than somebody who's a total stranger. So based on the distribution, you notice that family ties comes first, followed by ethnic ties. Family ties comes first, ethnic ties, religious ties, and then gender. This was the social education ties distribution. So future research should go into why do people prefer family ties? I guess the answer is pretty straightforward. Ethnic ties is pretty straightforward. It's just that now that education is trying to dilute the influence of ethnic ties, but it's still prevalent in the Ghanaian sociocultural landscape. And then religion, religious ties, and then gender. Yeah, so future research can add a qualitative component to it to get in-depth explanation for the outcome of the results. No, but because you see, with the qualitative study, most of the time it's quite difficult to decouple the sentiment of the researcher from the results of the research. Yeah, so that is why sometimes you need to do extra work to decouple your personal sentiments and opinion from qualitative research. So future research could look into that, but this is purely quantitative because of the UCNet I use, which is a network statistical tool that is a quantitative statistical tool.
Thank you. Philip, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, partly, because I was thinking that looking at the topic, Kwali would have done a more depth interview and then give us, like what he said, a deep understanding of why those variables. But as he also explained that because of the network, I try to understand with him because, some people believe that quantitative is easier to handle than qualitative. So I don't know, that has actually played a factor in this particular arrangement, but I think the answer is okay because if you are looking at, you want to understand the deep, very deep, where ethnic ties or family ties actually play a role in how entrepreneurs actually identify social and education network in the workplace. maybe there's a reason behind those things. As he's saying that it's straightforward, it may not be straightforward as he is looking at it. So I'm thinking that maybe to get an in-depth Kwali would have done the work, but I'm okay with the explanation.
Yes, but hello, Philip, please, can I come in?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So with the qualitative, yes, I share a bit with you that the qualitative could have unpacked more detailed explanation for the results. Nonetheless, the qualitative has its own limitation because you can't, more or less, the researcher needs to explain the results based on his interpretation of the responses that he or she has gathered from the respondents. And so it's not pretty straightforward that qualitative is much difficult or is difficult than quantitative. Quantitative is more objective compared to qualitative because qualitative, you will tell us what the respondents say. And most of the time, you will tweak it to suit your. So for instance, when I did, study shows that density has effect on firm outcomes, but my results proved otherwise. So yes, so I could have gone to do interviews to find out why it proved otherwise. But there are studies that also says that when networks are overly dense, it creates what you call the groupthink, redundant information sharing, and then homophilous tendencies where they exclude people who are not part of the group and rather focus on in-group discussion. So beyond getting the detailed, beyond soliciting responses from the respondents, there are enough literature to also support quantitative results. Others may have done qualitative that have results documented. You may also do, so for instance, I did the quantitative to support previous works that have done qualitative. So I sourced the reference from qualitative studies. So for instance, for the density, for network centralization, and for reciprocity. So it's not all the time that qualitative is a bit difficult than quantitative. Maybe, I guess, Philip, you're a quali person. Philip, please, are you a quali person?
No, I'm a quantitative person.
Oh, okay.
I believe in that paragraph.
So maybe your research is
positive.
Are you using a mixed method to do your
No,
research?
I'll go strictly with quantitative.
Hey, and you're talking plenty for qualitative.
Because I'm looking at your topic and thinking that the colleague would have done. Actually, I love colleague, but it's time consuming. You need to go to. We can't do it without you yourself being part of it.
And then
after questionnaire, you can design questionnaire, leave it up there, come back for it. That we readily say. But quality, you have to be at the center of the research. So that's the reason
no,
why.
but people also think that quali is easy or is easier because you can influence the interpretation.
It's also debatable.
No, that's not, because then if you run your smart PLS and the result says this, I was having a discussion with my supervisors in Australia, and then the mistake sometimes we do is that we develop the hypothesis before we go to run the results, thinking that the results will meet the hypothesis. So most of the time we are tempted to massage the figures for the outcome, for the results to suit our hypothesis. But for the econs, the econ students, they run the econometrics, get the results first, and then the results feed into their research work. That is why I realize that most PhD students in economics are able to graduate way ahead of other disciplines, especially with those in the humanities. Because ours is hypothesis-driven research, but theirs is data-driven research. Yeah. So nowadays you run your results, see the outcome of the direction, and then so for instance, it's been argued 20 years ago that let's say intrinsic motivation influences employee performance. That argument may have changed. So you run your analysis and the outcome is negative. And you'll be wondering if you've not done the good thing. But that could be the good thing. It means that you may have to introduce other intervening variables. Yes, either moderating or mediating variables. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, welcome, please.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Sika.
Yes. Any other questions by any of our participants? We are talking about the power of leaders' social skills and how it can be used to foster firm growth through social identification ties in the workplace.
Yeah, Shika.
Yes.
Yeah, even within our political landscape, social skills came in handy between
Okay.
Akufo-Addo and President Mahama.
Mm-hmm.
So people said Akufo-Addo was arrogant, was a bit strict, wasn't nice, but Mahama was affable, could get along with people. And that's the power of social skills. When Akufo-Addo told the chief to stand up and greet, Mahama said, "Sit down, let me greet you." And it flooded social media comparing the two leaders.
Right.
Yes. And so social skills, previous network studies have just looked at the behavioral aspect. The more people you know, the better or the likelihood that you may benefit from your ties with them. Now, it isn't the number, but it's the quality of relationship. And that is the social skill.
Okay, so Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, that's a very, very good example. I mean, it's very vivid and very recent. But as you were speaking, I was thinking within the context of the firm, what if that person with whom maybe as a leader you share more than just one social tie? Maybe it's your relative, maybe you go to the same church and you are there and you are the leader of this person, but the person is taking it for granted that because of that linkage that they have with you, they can get away with anything. What do you say to that sort of scenario?
Yes, I think Mrs. Alabo asked a similar question. And
Yes.
then I said that there are rules and regulations. There are do's and don'ts. That is why when employees are employed, you take them through an orientation process where you tell them the culture of the organization. Now, apart from the rules, the code of conduct, the rules of engagement, there are cultures within organizations that are not clearly codified.
Especially in our small and medium-sized enterprises.
Yes. No, you see, people have, because of my area of specialization, I engage SMEs a lot, entrepreneurs of small, medium businesses. And even recently, Kennedy Japan was on TV saying that he will not employ family members because if you do, they'll run your family down, they'll run your business down.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who brought his brother who had finished senior secondary school to come and help him run his photocopying business on campus. And the guy came and ran his brother's business down. And he couldn't act because he's a family brother. He's a skid brother and he takes care of him. So that's why I'm saying that the social identification ties are several: gender, religion, ethnicity. So it depends on your previous relationship. So for instance, if you've been disappointed by a lady, I don't think that as a male employee, you are likely to use gender. It depends. So for instance, if you've been betrayed by a family member who is an employee, I have another paper I published where I look at how entrepreneurs could leverage family ties versus non-family ties on knowledge sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you Google my name, you get it. How family ties and non-family ties influence knowledge sharing within SMEs. And the finding was that people leverage on family ties, but it depends on their previous experience. So if somebody had bad experience with a family member, he or she going forward will not leverage social ties on family ties again.
Right.
That is why I said that entrepreneurs could use various social ties factors, but it depends on the one that is dominant based on their previous experience. So if previously you built friendship based on ethnic ties, and for a continuous period, your ethnic ties did not help, going forward, you tend to religious ties. Yes. So it depends on your previous experience that will feed into your subsequent building of social identification ties. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for, what I'm getting from you, Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, is that you have to balance it out. Whilst you can rely on these family ties, you also have to have certain rules so that you can mitigate any potential for abuse or, basically taking things for granted within the firm so that it doesn't harm the firm.
No, so
Yeah.
yeah, Shika, that's why I said that when employees are hired, before they start work, you give them an orientation, and then you expose the rules of the organization to them, and you demonstrate fairness as a leader. So you don't say because he's a family member, you bend the rules for them, and then on family members, they are strict. It doesn't work that way. Your business will cripple, just a matter of time. Because once people feel discriminated against, or they've been biased against, they'll begin to resent. And then it reflects in the attitude towards your work. And they'll either leave or will not put up maximum performance. And your business will suffer in the long run. So make sure as an entrepreneur, though you can leverage on all this ties. That is why, even as part of my practical implications, I stress that, yes, I stress that you should regulate dense connections in the workplace to avoid the risk of groupthink. So once you feel that you are becoming too close with your employees, you must find a way to regulate it and then pull the brakes and let them know their boundaries.
Okay.
So as a leader, you may build social ties with your employees based on their level of emotional intelligence or their exposure to friendship. The others could just walk into your office disregarding others that are in the office and want to show that they are closest to you. As a leader, you must discourage that.
Okay.
So yeah,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so you have to really regulate dense connections and make sure that you don't become overly too close. If not, become too familiar with them. And as they say, familiarity breeds contempt. So you need to regulate the connection.
Okay. Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, you mentioned one thing that really triggered me when I saw your topic, which is emotional intelligence. Can you comment on this emotional intelligence, the role of emotional intelligence of the leader in trying to use these social ties and identification ties in the workplace to foster growth?
Yeah, so one way a leader can manage emotional ties is when you go by the rules of engagement, the rules of the organization. So if somebody commits an offense, what does the regulations say? You make reference to it. No, you see, that's what makes the Western world develop, and with the developing world, we are struggling because we make the rules, and then anytime something happens, the question is who is behind what has happened, not what did the person do. Yeah, so normally we go behind the issue and look at the personalities behind the issue. That's what we do in Africa. But as as a leader who has high social skills, look, I'm free with you, but I'm not going to bend the rules because these are the principles. So the orientation will introduce your employees to the regulations of the organization, the code of conduct. So once a code of conduct is breached, you call a meeting and you make reference to that code of conduct that if you do A, these are the commensurate punishment that comes with it. And I'm not going to ban it for you because I share social identification ties with you. No, don't do that. Yes, I did my PhD in Australia. They'll tell you no, and afterwards they go for a coffee break with you. So so the disagreement is issue based, which is not personalized. Right. But in Ghana, here in Africa, we personalize everything. So once something bad happens in the organization, the question is who did it? And then afterwards, what did the person do? Because who did it will inform your interpretation of what the person has done, which is wrong. Yeah, so social skills has a branch in emotional intelligence where you don't need to work up your emotions because the rules are there already. Don't just Once something happens, it's like Christians. The Bible is our reference document. So once you need something from God, you go to the document and say, God, you said this is what if I do, I'll get this. And then God says he's committed to his word. So sometimes, even as Christians, we do the opposite and expect God to go against his word. It doesn't work that way. No wonder we spend so much time praying, and God is just looking on us saying that we are not serious because we are not going by the principles. Same applies to organizations that make the rules and crack the whip fairly without discrimination. And in fact, research shows that most family members are collapsing family business because they feel that because there's what we call socio-economic, socio-cultural attachment to the business, they don't want to go by the principle. And then I listened to Kennedy Japan, and he says that most local businesses are collapsing in Ghana because they've employed Ghanaians. Because, and you've noticed that all the businesses that are succeeding in Accra and some parts of the country are owned by foreigners, the Chinese, the Turkish, the Indians, the Arabs.
But Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, then what does that say about your research?
In terms of what?
In terms of if it is social ties of the leader, the business in Ghana, obviously the leader doesn't have, if they bring an Indian, for instance, to run a company, he wouldn't have any ties with the Ghanaian employees.
It could be religion. It could be, it could be religious ties, it could be social, organizational ties. It could be, they should be, normally people find reasons to have ties with people. But my drift is that when a Ghanaian is working for a foreigner, the Ghanaian knows that if I flout the rules, I'll get punished, the police will come in.
Yes.
So he or she is well behaved because he or she knows the consequences of not doing the right thing.
Right.
But once the entrepreneur is Ghanaian, chiefs comes in, pastors comes in, imams comes in, even the police officer comes in to bail the person out. And that is why businesses are not flourishing in Ghana. In fact, locally owned business, because our social cultural ways of doing things have really crept into how businesses are done. Yes.
Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, perhaps that will be the subject of your next research.
I look forward to do that with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any question for Dr. Ahomka Yeboah before he makes his closing remarks? If nobody has any questions, then Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, maybe you can give us like a rounding up, and then we would go ahead and have our closing prayer.
Oh, okay. So once again, thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Labo and the wife, and then the principal officers of Salt University, the registrar, Professor Maoko, Dr. Abuaji, and everybody that is making the Salt University College a good place to study. Now, as I said in my lecture, whether you like it or not, people will find reasons to form in groups within the organization. And as I said, it will have a telling on how they behave within the organization. So as leaders, now culture, organizational culture, it's elements within the organization that is not captured on paper, yet has enormous influence on how employees behave. So the summary is that as a leader, one way you can curb dense social ties in the organization is start off with a good orientation process where you tell the employees that, look, we are a family, feel free, talk to each other, get along. If there are issues, use the structure. Now, if anytime a leader says that if you have issues, come to me, it creates problems. It means that you are telling people to bypass the structures and come to you. That becomes a problem. Yeah, so make sure that as a leader, you use the structures correctly, and then as much as possible, avoid dense connections. If people are overly dense or are overly closed, then they begin to do what we call homophilous tendencies. They discriminate against those who are not part of them, and then rather want to move along with their in-group members. And that is inimical to firm group. So as a leader, you need social skills to socially adapt, socially express yourself, and then have good emotional intelligence, and know that people's attitudes may not necessarily be permanent, but based on certain temporal issues that they are going through. And therefore, the social skills comes in to know how to balance your emotions against the behaviors of your employees. And once you win them informally, you win them formally. And so that is why for organizations, when you do something bad, they'll tell you that, look, we don't want to send you a sack letter. Rather write to tell us that you have resigned. So that we don't, as it were, block your chances of getting jobs. But in the actual sense, you've been fired. It means that you writing a letter to indicate that you have resigned is an informal approach. And most of the time, if they tell you to write a letter to indicate that you have resigned, they don't do it in a letter form. They tell you orally. And that is an informal approach. Yeah, so the informal relationships and the organizationally determined relationships are equally important. So as a leader, come down from your high horse sometimes and get to know what's happening. As Rollins those days could go to Nima, get through the gutters, wants to clean the place, say JJ, because and that is what Shatawale is using. That's what Shatawale is using, and he's getting the numbers. He's a king of the street, and he's getting the numbers. So social skills is very important. So I thank you all for your audience, and I look forward to us working together, having a research team where we could come together, publish your research works, and that will give academic and scholarly visibility to Salt University. So I thank you all once again to Dr. Alabo and the wife, the registrar, and the principal officers, and to you, Sika. It's been back and forth, but I really enjoyed your working with you. I hope we translate that into writing papers in future.
Absolutely. Dr. Ahomka Yeboah, thank you so much for your very, very, your topic is one that is almost something that we are aware of, but now we have become even more aware of the importance of social network. Thank you so much for raising that awareness amongst us. And I want to say a big thank you also to Dr. Fatima Alabo, our Vice President, Dr. Alabo, our President, Ambassador Mercy Deborah Karikari, and Ambassador Novishi Abedu, to our Registrar, Dr. Denise Anatri, and to the rest of our faculty and our students. Thank you so much for availing yourself of your time to be with us and to drink from the wisdom of Dr. Ahomka Yeboah. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to ask one of our leadership students, Mr. Philip Ake, who was the one asking the most of the questions, to give us the closing prayer. Philip.
Thank you, Sika. Sika, have you tested Ahomka ginger before?
Yes, I love it. I love
it. But this lecture is very deep. It's just like Ahomka ginger. When you put it into your mouth, shoot.
Yes.
Philip, are you a politician?
No, I'm not a politician. Okay, thank you. I really enjoy this lecture. I hope to engage you more on some of these issues, because my research touching some of these issues and how we can actually pick some of these issues and then to our workplace and use them to enhance productivity. God bless you so much. Let's pray.
All right.
Our Father, we thank you. We give you glory. We give you honor and adoration for this moment. We want to thank you so much for what you have done for us, the knowledge that you have given to us through your servant, Dr. Moses Ahomka Yeboah. We thank you for the knowledge. That Father, this knowledge, let it be part and part of life. Let's use it to increase productivity in our workplaces, increase our social network. We thank you that replenish the knowledge that you have given to him. And we also actually use it meaningfully. We are living here, but you are not living your presence. We pray, Lord Jehovah, take us home safely. Some of us are still in the office, our workplaces. Take us home safely so that next time we meet and have this intellectual discourse. We thank you in the name of Jesus Christ. We thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Can we unmute
Amen.
and give a clap offering on the count of 3, please? 1, 2, let us all unmute. 3. Thank you so much. I can't hear your clapping. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahomka Yeboah. Have a wonderful evening to all of you.
Okay.
And
God bless you so much. God bless you. God bless you.
We'll see you soon. God bless.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Sigama.